In a world screaming for more, the bravest financial move you can make in the year 2026 is simply to stop. There is a Swedish word, Lagom, that explains why earning 5% in peace is mathematically superior to earning 20% in anxiety. Imagine a fire. If it is too small, you freeze. If it is too big, it burns the house down. Your wealth is exactly the same. Welcome back to Mindset for Wealth. I am glad you are here. Close the door behind you. Leave the noise of the stock market, the panic of the headlines, and the endless ticking of the price charts outside in the cold. Inside here, we are going to speak about something that Wall Street will never sell you because they cannot put a price tag on it. We are going to talk about the sound of silence. Most investors I meet are running a race that has no finish line. They believe that if they just get to $1 million, or $2 million, or $10 million, the anxiety will finally stop. But it never does. The more they gather, the more they have to lose. They become rich in assets, but they are absolutely bankrupt in peace. They have built a fortress of money, but they are too afraid to sleep inside it. Today, I want to offer you a different path. It is a path inspired by the long, dark winters of the North, where survival is not about having the most, but about having enough. We are going to explore a concept I call the sleep dividend. We will look at the mathematics behind why a boring, quiet portfolio might not make you famous at a dinner party, but it will make you the wealthiest person in the room when the storm hits. If you are tired of the noise, and if you are ready to build wealth that feels as good as it looks, then settle in. You are in the right place. Please, take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you value this kind of quiet, long-term thinking. Let us stack the firewood. Let us find the warmth of enough.
Welcome to Mindset for Wealth, where money meets mindset.
Let us begin by looking at the cost of money. We are taught mathematics in school. We are taught that 10% is always better than 5%. We are taught that more is always better than less. But on a spreadsheet, humans do not exist. On a spreadsheet, there is no fear. There is no panic at 3 in the morning when the markets in Asia open and the red candles begin to fall. In the real world, there is a hidden tax on high returns. I call this the volatility tax. It is not a tax you pay to the government. It is a tax you pay to your nervous system. Every time you reach for a higher yield, every time you add a speculative asset to your portfolio because you fear missing out, you are increasing this tax bill. You might see the numbers in your account going up during the summer months of the economy. You feel brilliant. You feel like a genius. But you are not calculating the cost of the stress you are carrying. You are not calculating the bandwidth it takes from your mind, the attention it steals from your children, or the tightness in your chest when you check your phone. That is a cost, and the market always collects its debt. Think of the investor who builds a portfolio designed to return 20% a year. To achieve that, he must take on significant risk. He must buy things that fluctuate wildly. He is like a man building a house with very thin walls because he wants to save money on lumber to buy a bigger television. When the weather is calm, his house looks magnificent. But we know the truth about the seasons. We know that winter always comes. When the wind begins to howl and the snow begins to pile up against the door, that investor is not thinking about his 20% return. He is thinking about survival. And because his walls are thin, because his portfolio is built on volatility, he feels the cold instantly. The fear sets in. And this is where the mathematics of anxiety destroys wealth. When the fear becomes too great to bear, the human mind seeks relief. It wants the pain to stop. So what does the investor do? He sells. He sells at the bottom. He sells right when the firewood is cheapest, because he is too frozen to think clearly. He turned a theoretical gain into a permanent loss, simply because he tried to carry more weight than his mind could handle. This is the tragedy of modern investing. We try to optimize our money, but we fail to optimize our psychology. We chase a number that we think will make us happy, but the path to that number makes us miserable. So, we have to ask a different question. What if the goal was not to maximize the number on the screen? What if the goal was to maximize your ability to remain calm when the rest of the world is burning? What if the true measure of wealth was not the return on your capital, but the return on your sleep? So, let us redefine the formula for wealth. The traditional formula is simple. It says that wealth equals your principal multiplied by your rate of return. But this is incomplete. It is missing the human variable. The true formula for wealth is your financial return minus your cortisol levels. If you make $100,000 in the market, but you developed an ulcer, lost your hair, and snapped at your spouse because you were checking the price of Bitcoin at the dinner table, you did not make a profit. You made a loss. You traded the only life you have for a number that you cannot eat. This brings us to the concept of the sleep dividend. The sleep dividend is the invisible return you get from owning assets that do not require your constant attention. It is the value of putting your head on the pillow at 10 o'clock at night and knowing with absolute certainty that you will still be fine in the morning, no matter what the Federal Reserve does. Let us look at the numbers again. Option A is a portfolio that promises you 20% a year. It is full of leverage, full of hype, and full of companies that have never made a profit. To hold it, you must watch the news every day. You must be faster than the algorithms. Option B is what I call the Firewood Portfolio. It yields a boring, guaranteed 5%. It consists of short-term government bonds, high-quality dividend aristocrats, and cash. The mathematical gap seems huge, 15%. But here is the secret. The sleep dividend on option B is massive. When you hold option B, you are not paid just in interest. You are paid in clarity. You are paid in presence. You are paid in the ability to look at your children and actually hear what they are saying instead of thinking about your margin call. This is the essence of Lagom. Lagom is not about being poor. It is not about deprivation. It translates to just the right amount. It is the perfect balance. In investing, Lagom means taking just enough risk to reach your goals, and not 1 gram of risk more. If you have already won the game, why are you still playing? If you have enough firewood to last through the winter, why are you risking your life out in the blizzard trying to find one more stick? The sleep dividend is the realization that once you have enough, the utility of more money drops to zero, but the risk of losing what you have rises to infinity. When you understand this, the boring 5% return does not look like a compromise. It looks like a victory. It looks like freedom. In the North, we do not view winter as a disaster. We view it as a certainty. For centuries, wealth in Scandinavia was not measured by how much gold you had buried in the ground, but by how much firewood you had stacked against the wall. Gold could not keep you warm when the temperature dropped, but wood could. This is what I call the firewood mindset. It is a defensive posture, and in a financial world obsessed with offense, obsessed with growth at any cost, defense has become a lost art. Most modern portfolios are built for endless summer. They are built on the assumption that the line will always go up, that liquidity will always be flowing, and that the music will never stop. But when the silence comes, as it always does, those portfolios collapse. The fortress of silence is different. It is a portfolio built for the winter. It is structured so that you do not need the market to do anything for you to survive. Think about the power of that statement. You do not need the Federal Reserve to cut rates. You do not need the GDP to grow by 3%. You do not need a bull market. You are indifferent. Indifference is a superpower that no amount of money can buy if you are over-leveraged. When you have built your fortress of silence, when you have embraced the sleep dividend, a market crash changes from a catastrophe into an opportunity. While others are panic selling because they have to, because they need cash to pay their margin loans, you are sitting by the fire. You are watching the prices fall with curiosity, not terror. You have your cash. You have your bonds. You have your stability. You are the liquidity provider when the rest of the world is dry. And this leads to the ultimate luxury. It is not a yacht. It is not a private jet. It is the freedom of disconnection. The man who knows he has enough can close his laptop. He can walk out into the woods. He can breathe the cold air and listen to the wind in the trees, completely untethered from the global economy. He is not checking his phone. He is not refreshing the news. He is present in his own life. That is the fortress. It is a wall of silence that protects your time from the chaos of the world. And once you have tasted that silence, the noise of the casino never sounds the same again. So, how do we build this in the real world? How do we move from the philosophy of Lagom to the practical management of a portfolio? It starts with a piece of paper and a pen. You must paint a finish line. Most people are running a marathon where the organizers keep moving the ribbon further and further away. You need to sit down in a quiet room and calculate exactly how much money you need to sustain a simple, dignified life. Not a life of excess, a life of freedom. Once you have that number, you have something that 99% of investors do not have. You have a stop loss on your own greed. You have a definition of enough. Once you know where the finish line is, you can structure your portfolio to get you there safely rather than quickly. I want you to look at every asset you own and ask a simple question. Does this asset help me sleep, or does it keep me awake? We can divide the investment world into two buckets. The first bucket is what I call the insomnia assets. These are the cryptocurrencies, the unproven technology stocks, the leveraged real estate deals. They promise you the moon, but they demand your peace of mind in exchange. The second bucket holds the sleep assets. These are the boring tools, short-term government bonds that pay you simply to wait. High-quality companies that have paid dividends through wars, recessions, and pandemics. Cash in the bank that loses value to inflation slowly, but protects you from ruin instantly. The goal of the winter strategy is not to eliminate the first bucket entirely. It is to ensure that the second bucket, the sleep assets, is large enough to cover your basic survival needs forever. If your mortgage, your food, and your heating are covered by the boring income from the sleep assets, then you are immune to the crash. The rest of your money can go into the volatile assets if you wish, because now it does not matter. If the market crashes 50%, your lifestyle does not change. This allows you to make a profound shift in your mindset. Economists call it the shift from maximizing to satisficing. Maximizing is the obsession with getting the absolute best possible result every single time. It is exhausting. Satisficing is the art of finding a solution that is good enough and then stopping. It is realizing that a 5% return that is 100% certain is infinitely better than a 20% return that is only 50% certain. When you embrace this, you stop trying to beat the market. You start trying to beat your own anxiety. And that is a game you can actually win. I want you to imagine one morning in the near future. You wake up. The sun is shining on the snow outside your window. You brew your coffee. You open your laptop and you see the headlines. The market has fallen 10% overnight. There is panic on the television. People are screaming about a crash. Your phone is lighting up with notifications from news apps. But you feel nothing. You take a sip of your coffee. You feel the warmth of the cup in your hands. Your heart rate does not change. Your breathing does not speed up. You do not rush to sell. You do not rush to buy. You simply close the laptop and go back to watching the snowfall. That feeling is the sleep dividend. That is the moment you realize that by choosing to have enough, you have actually gained everything. Richness is not the roar of the engine. It is the silence of the cabin. Thank you for sharing this time by the fire with me today. It is rare to find people who are willing to slow down and think about the long term. If you found peace in this message, please leave a gentle like on the video and subscribe to Mindset for Wealth. We are building a community of the calmest investors in the world, and there is a seat waiting for you here. If you want to understand more about why I believe this defensive posture is so critical right now, and what specific signs I am seeing in the economy, I invite you to watch this video on the screen. It is called The Winter Prophecy. It will explain why the cold is coming and how to prepare your coat. I will see you there.